In the center of the glistening marble front desk, an Asian woman stood motionless, radiating an astonishing calmness that was a stark contrast to the burgeoning chaos around her. She was Akiko Tanaka, a Japanese millionaire with a massive fortune. But at this moment her wealth was entirely useless against the language barrier. Sandra Morrison, the hotel manager, was gesturing wildly. She looked at the three professional interpreters as if they were incompetent students. An Asian woman has been causing a commotion at the front desk for over 40 minutes now. Sandra's shriek echoed dramatic and impatient. The three translators, who were accustomed to handling complex diplomatic issues, could only look at one another in helplessness. They had tried everything from Mandarin to Korean, but the woman remained silent, her eyes betraying a dangerous mix of frustration and contempt. Beside her, an assistant was furiously tapping on a phone, likely canceling million-dollar meetings, each tap a sigh of disappointment. In the distance, almost invisible in the commotion, was Denise Washington. She held a mop, diligently working on the Italian marble floor. She had been working here for 6 years, and in those 6 years she had learned how to become a shadow, someone no one noticed, no one cared about. She quietly observed the unfolding drama, feeling every wave of tension spreading through the lobby. "Mr. Martinez, get someone else," Sandra ordered the sweaty front desk clerk. "This situation is turning into an international scandal." The last translator, a specialist in Asian languages, shook his head in defeat. "She doesn't speak Mandarin, Korean, or Thai. I've tried everything, but she keeps ignoring us as if we're invisible." Denise stopped mopping, her eyes fixed on the Japanese businesswoman. There was something in her gaze, a profound understanding that no one else in the room possessed. It was as if she were the only one who truly understood the loneliness, the helplessness of standing in a noisy crowd, but being unable to speak. Sandra Morrison paced back and forth, her expensive high heels clicking on the floor. "If we don't resolve this in the next 15 minutes, I'll have to cancel the booking for the presidential suite." Her voice was a threatening whisper, enough for the young employee beside her to feel it. "Ms. Tanaka owns one of the world's largest tech networks. If she leaves here unhappy, our international reputation will be ruined." The fear of financial loss had become greater than professionalism. And then the Japanese woman finally spoke. Elegant and quick words escaped her lips, but they became an unsolvable puzzle for everyone. The translators looked at each other, completely baffled. Sandra rolled her eyes, her impatience reaching its peak. Just then, a strange silence spread. Denise slowly straightened up. She put down her mop, her movements slow and deliberate. It was like an actress who had observed long enough. Now she knew she had to step onto the stage. In her 6 years of work, Denise had witnessed countless similar scenes where people in power treated others as if they were invisible. She had always stayed silent, her head down, working. But this time, her gaze was unwavering. In that moment, no one in the luxurious hotel lobby could have imagined that this little cleaning woman held a secret that could change everything. Her intervention would not only resolve a crisis, but also initiate a chain of events that would permanently reverse the power dynamics in this hotel. "I've run out of patience." Sandra slammed her hand on the marble counter, the sound deafening. "That Asian woman is making my hotel an international laughingstock." Akiko Tanaka maintained her composure, but Denise noticed her hands clenching discreetly behind her back. She understood. She understood every disrespectful word Sandra had just said. The indignation was not just about the language barrier, but about how she was being treated. Ms. Morrison, the front desk clerk, interjected nervously. "Perhaps we should try a different approach." A different approach, how Sandra spun around, her eyes flashing with anger. "I've wasted 2 hours on this ridiculous matter. If she can't communicate in English, she shouldn't be staying at a world-class American hotel." A familiar burning sensation flared in Denise's chest. It was a feeling she was all too familiar with every time she witnessed arrogance masquerading as professionalism. She tightened her grip on the broom handle, remembering the countless times she had been treated like an object. Sandra continued her tirade, gesturing ostentatiously at the small crowd of onlookers. "One of the most expensive suites in the hotel, occupied by a person who can't even ask for an extra towel." "Sandra, please lower your voice," the front desk clerk whispered. But Sandra had completely lost control. No, enough with the political correctness. This is an American company, and if people want our premium service, they should at least speak our language." Her words were the final straw. Denise recalled a painful story from years ago. She had been fired from her previous job for defending a Latina colleague who was humiliated for not speaking perfect English. How bitterly ironic that this anonymous cleaning woman was a talented interpreter. Denise was fluent in 5 languages, a skill honed over years of volunteering for humanitarian organizations. It was a part of her past she had intentionally hidden to get this low-level job when life had backed her into a corner. "Maybe we should call security." Sandra Morrison's voice was full of malice as she looked at Akiko Tanaka as if she were an intruder. If she can't communicate properly, she clearly doesn't belong here. The thinly veiled threat of contempt echoed throughout the lobby, causing uncomfortable whispers. Akiko raised her chin, her unwavering dignity, a sharp contrast to Sandra's vulgarity. Denise watched her indignation rising. She remembered her 2 years of studying Japanese at a community center, learning not just the language, but also the cultural nuances. Her passion for helping those who faced language barriers, similar to what she had once experienced, had motivated her. "You know what really gets me?" Sandra continued her monologue, showing off her arrogance. "It's the assumption that we have to adapt to them when they're the ones who should be trying to integrate into our culture." Akiko's assistant finally lost her patience. She spoke quickly in Japanese, pointing toward the exit. They were considering leaving, which would mean a massive financial loss and an international scandal for the Grand Plaza. At that moment, a shift occurred within Denise. Her indignation was no longer passive. It transformed into a powerful resolve. Her eyes met Akiko's, and for a brief moment, a silent understanding was shared between the two women. Akiko said something to her assistant, who immediately began typing on her phone, likely canceling not just the hotel reservation, but also millions of dollars in contracts. Sandra Morrison, completely unaware of the consequences of her ignorance, continued to spout arrogant remarks. She didn't know that every word she said was being noted by Denise. Denise had learned that sometimes true power lay in the moments when others expected your submission. As Sandra prepared for her next public humiliation, a spark ignited in Denise's eyes. It was not resignation, but a quiet determination, a decision to turn years of injustice into a lesson no one would forget. Denise silently put down her mop and walked with composure toward the group surrounding Akiko. "Excuse me," she said softly, her voice low but strong enough to command attention. Sandra whirled around, her eyes flashing with anger. "Excuse me, you are interrupting a critical situation. Get back to your duties immediately." But Denise's eyes never left Akiko. In perfect Kyoto-accented Japanese, a dialect showing deep cultural study, she said softly, "Tanaka-sama gomen nasai. Kono hoteru no shitsure o anata no ryoko wa koeishao." "Miss Tanaka, I am sorry. Please forgive this hotel's disrespect. Your visit is an honor for us." The silence that followed was stunning. Akiko blinked, her expression shifting from frustration to relief, then to intense curiosity. "Anata nihongo ju desu ka?" "You speak Japanese so well," Akiko asked. "Hai sukoshi dekimasu." "Yes, a little," Denise replied humbly. Sandra stood frozen, her mouth agape in disbelief. The translators looked at one another in shame. A cleaning woman had accomplished in seconds what they had failed at for hours. "This is impossible." Sandra regained her voice, but there was a hint of panic in it now. You can't. How could a cleaning woman?" Akiko cut Sandra off with an elegant wave of her hand, continuing to speak with Denise in Japanese. "Denisu-san hatsuon ga totemo kirei desu." "Ms. Denise, your pronunciation is very beautiful." She asked where she had learned Japanese, and Denise replied, "Kyoto no daigaku de benkyou shimashita. Mata nihon no bunka ga daisuki desu." "I studied at a university in Kyoto. Furthermore, I love Japanese culture." Akiko's eyes lit up. It was clear Denise not only spoke the language, but had a profound cultural understanding. Sandra Morrison was on the verge of a complete breakdown. "This can't be happening. You are a cleaning woman. You aren't even allowed to talk to the guests." Just then, Marcus Johnson, the senior front desk clerk and the only other black person in a leadership position at the hotel, quietly approached, his eyes full of concern, yet with an unreadable glint. Marcus walked over, his eyes filled with admiration, but also concern for Denise. "Ms. Morrison," he said diplomatically, "perhaps we should let this situation play out naturally. Our guest seems to finally be getting the proper care she deserves. Care from a cleaning woman? Sandra had completely lost her composure. Marcus, don't you see, this person is creating an international scandal? Akiko Tanaka, who had understood every word, looked at Sandra with a cold expression. In clear, perfect English, she said, "The only one creating a scandal here is you, Ms. Morrison." The shock was immediate. Sandra staggered as if she had been struck. You spoke English this whole time. Fluently, Akiko confirmed, her voice filled with controlled contempt. And I understood every one of your bigoted and xenophobic insults from the past 2 hours. A wave of realization swept through the lobby. The observing guests began to whisper their expressions, shifting from embarrassment to outrage at Sandra's behavior. Marcus stepped forward silently, standing beside Denise. "Ms. Washington," he said with gravity, "I appreciate your assistance in this delicate situation." Denise nodded respectfully, but her gaze was no longer one of resignation, but the quiet determination of someone who had finally decided to be seen. "Tanaka-sama," Denise continued in Japanese, "if you would allow me, I would like to clarify a few misunderstandings about your booking. I believe we can resolve everything quickly." Akiko nodded with gratitude and growing curiosity about this extraordinary woman. Sandra Morrison, desperate to regain her authority, shrieked, "Denise Washington, you are officially suspended. Step away from your duties immediately." The threat echoed, but it was no longer effective. Denise looked straight at Sandra with a silent power, deciding to stop hiding who she truly was. "I understand, Ms. Morrison," Denise replied, her voice calm. "But before I leave, I want to make sure that our guest is treated with the respect she deserves." Blinded by her arrogance, Sandra failed to realize that her every insult had been noted by both Akiko and Denise. Akiko, a woman of international influence, was capable of turning this prosperous hotel into a memory with a single phone call. The hotel lobby had become a stage where Sandra was about to discover she had chosen the wrong opponent. Akiko elegantly took out her phone, activating a voice recording device that had been running throughout the humiliation. "Miss Morrison," she said in an icy tone, "I would like to clarify a few things about my identity." Sandra panicked, her face shifting from beet red to ashen white. I don't understand. This situation is out of control." "My full name is Akiko Tanaka, the CEO of Tanaka Technology International." The businesswoman continued, her voice resonating. "My company has corporate lodging contracts worth $12 million annually with American hotel chains." The silence that followed was stunning. Marcus closed his eyes, realizing the scale of the disaster. The other employees looked at each other in horror. Furthermore, Akiko continued, "I am a member of the International Tourism Council, the organization that certifies accommodations for Asian executives. A negative recommendation from me could result in the cancellation of tens of millions of dollars worth of contracts each year." Sandra began to tremble, finally realizing that she was not facing an ordinary tourist, but someone with enough power to ruin the hotel's reputation with a single decision. "But more importantly," Akiko raised her voice, ensuring everyone could hear clearly, "is that for the past 2 hours I have recorded every prejudiced word, every discriminatory gesture, and every expression of xenophobia that has come out of your mouth." "That can't be legal," Sandra stammered in desperation. Marcus stepped forward, his voice professional but firm. "Actually, Ms. Morrison, in public areas like a hotel lobby, there is no legal expectation of privacy. All of our security cameras have also recorded the entire incident." The tsunami of realization crashed over Sandra. Not only her words, but her actions were also captured on video, creating irrefutable evidence. Akiko tapped on her phone screen. "I have already sent copies of this recording to the tourism councils of 4 nations, the national management of this hotel chain, and my public relations team in Tokyo." "You can't destroy my career over a misunderstanding," Sandra nearly shrieked. "A misunderstanding?" Denise finally spoke, her voice filled with authority. "Ms. Morrison, I have worked here for 6 years and witnessed countless similar situations. The difference is that today, your victim has the power to defend herself." Akiko nodded respectfully to Denise before continuing. "Ms. Washington, I have been looking into your professional background while observing this situation." Sandra seemed to be having a nervous breakdown, realizing she had completely lost control. I discovered that you hold a degree in linguistics specializing in Asian cultures, have volunteered as an interpreter, and are fluent in 5 languages. Akiko told Denise with genuine respect. You are exactly the type of professional my company is looking for to expand our operations in the United States. The shock was evident on the faces of all the employees. For years, Denise had been treated as a replaceable laborer while she possessed qualifications most hotel managers could only dream of. Marcus looked at Sandra with a mixture of disbelief and disappointment. Ms. Morrison, not only have you humiliated one of our most important guests, but you have also wasted a brilliant talent right in front of us. Sandra desperately tried to salvage the situation. I can explain. It was a stressful moment. I didn't mean to. You meant exactly what you said, Akiko interrupted coolly. And thanks to modern technology, your true views on those you consider different are now permanently on record. Sandra's phone rang nonstop. She trembled, barely able to answer. Hello? Her voice came out as a choked whisper. Yes, Mr. Davidson. I can explain. No, sir. I didn't know she was... While Sandra desperately tried to justify herself, Akiko turned to Denise with an offer that would change her life. Ms. Washington, I would like to offer you the position of Intercultural Relations Coordinator for our U.S. branch. The starting salary will be $90,000 a year with full benefits. The silence in the lobby was absolute. Denise had gone from an invisible cleaning woman to an international executive in just a few hours, all because she had the courage to do the right thing at the right time. Sandra hung up the phone, her face pale. I've been fired, she announced to the empty lobby, her voice breaking. Fired for cause. I'll never be able to work in the hospitality industry again. Justice had been served completely and brutally. Sandra not only lost her job, but also her professional reputation, her references, and any chance to continue her career in her chosen field. Meanwhile, Denise was finally recognized for the brilliant talent she had always possessed. As Sandra packed up her things under the contemptuous stares of the very colleagues who once admired her, a single question hung in the tense air of the changed hotel lobby. A single act of courage and dignity could rewrite all the rules of power and respect that had dominated an environment for decades. It proved that sometimes a true revolution begins with a simple person who refuses to be invisible when they witness injustice. 6 months later, Denise Washington sat in her office on the executive floor of Tanaka Technology International. From the panoramic window, she gazed at the magnificent city skyline, which she once only knew from a cleaning woman's perspective. Her transformation was perfect and inspiring. As the Intercultural Relations Coordinator, she had built strong commercial bridges and developed cultural training programs that became national standards. Denise, the meeting with the Japanese executives is confirmed for 3 o'clock, Marcus Johnson announced. He had left the Grand Plaza to become her right-hand man, and together they were building an extraordinary partnership based on a deep understanding of the value of overlooked talent. Excellent, Marcus. Denise smiled. How's our new intern? She asked, referring to a young Latina girl she had discovered. She's exceeding all expectations, Marcus replied, just as you predicted. At the same time, in another part of the city, Sandra Morrison sat in a shabby apartment flipping through job listings in a newspaper. The international scandal that followed Akiko Tanaka's release of the recording had completely destroyed her reputation. No reputable hotel would hire her, and her family had distanced themselves. Social media had turned her into a national symbol of arrogance and prejudice. Meanwhile, the Grand Plaza had undergone a cultural revolution. The new management, aware of the risk that had nearly ruined the hotel, implemented strict diversity and inclusion programs. Akiko Tanaka not only became a regular guest, but also an investor, ensuring these changes were permanent and meaningful. You know what makes me most proud of this whole story? Akiko remarked during lunch with Denise. It's not just about helping you find your true place, but also proving that when we value diversity, everyone wins. Denise nodded, remembering that pivotal moment. For years, I believed my education and skills were worthless. Now I realize the problem was never with me. And Sandra Morrison? Akiko asked with a hint of curiosity. I hear she's working as a salesperson. Denise replied without a trace of schadenfreude. I truly hope she learned something valuable about respect and humility. True justice isn't about destroying people, but about creating opportunities for them to grow. That afternoon, as Denise led a video conference with executives from 5 different nations, she reflected on her extraordinary journey. Her story had become an inspiration to thousands. She had proven that true power lies in recognizing your own worth, regardless of others' opinions. Sandra Morrison had tried to humiliate, belittle, and render her invisible. But in the end, she had unintentionally created the very circumstances for Denise to shine. Sometimes our biggest enemies are the very people who accidentally do us the greatest favor. I hope this translation is useful to you. Please let me know if you need any further assistance. Today, while Denise Washington leads one of the most successful departments of an international company, Sandra Morrison lives with the consequences of mistaking temporary social status for genuine human value. The true victory isn't about destroying those who hurt us, but about building something so extraordinary that every attempt to diminish our greatness becomes meaningless. Ultimately, this story isn't just about a woman finding her voice. It's a powerful reminder that kindness, patience, and dignity will always triumph over arrogance. 6 years of being treated like a shadow couldn't erase Denise's character, and 6 hours of arrogance erased Sandra's career. When the spotlight shifted from a powerful manager to a humble cleaning woman, we realize that the greatest stories often don't belong to those at the top, but to those who found the strength to stand up and write their own destiny. What do you think of this story? Share your thoughts on the lesson it teaches in the comments below.